So, how you doing? It's Jared. It's been about 6 months since I did a knife collection video, and honestly, I've been thinking about it recently. I'm going to start downsizing my collection a little bit, begrudgingly, because I hate getting rid of knives. I've just got this problem with it. I don't like it, because the moment I sell one or I give it away, well, if I give it away, it's not too much of a problem, but whenever I sell a knife or I lose it, I'm just like, I immediately miss everything about that knife. Even if it was a feature that I didn't specifically like, I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I recently sold my Hogue X5, and I'm glad I sold it. I mean, yeah, it wasn't bad. I got $150 for it. You know, it was, I mean, I didn't get, I could have gotten more, but I mean, I don't care, and I didn't like that knife. I mean, it was cool, and now that I don't have it, I'm like, oh, I really want it back. But here's the collection as of right now. It's just going to be the folding knives. Start off with Benchmade. It's a Benchmade 551-1301. It's a shot show knife for 2013. I love this. Benchmade Griptilian still, it's not my absolute favorite knife, but for the price, for, what you get, it's the best buy, I still think, as far as just useful knives go. So that's the 1301 from Benchmade. Beautiful knife. I really like that one. CPM M4, actually. Interesting choice that they did on that one. Placing these things way off to the side, so you gotta forgive me for that one. But here's another Benchmade Griptilian. This is a 551-1. First production run. I didn't carry this thing for a long time, but I've recently started carrying this one around a little bit more. I definitely like this knife. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure on which one I like more, the original or the Dash 1 model. They both just got things that I really like. This is a 557 SBK. Serrated, black-coated, Tonto, Griptilian. Another sick-ass knife. This was my first Griptilian, actually. This is the first Benchmade Griptilian I ever bought. I bought this in Riverdale, Utah. I needed a knife while I was out of town, so I picked that one up. And it led to my little Griptilian obsession here. This is a 551H2O. It's got the N680. It's just a really stain-resistant steel, decent edge retention for how stainless it is, decent toughness, good steel for dive knife, which was what this is intended for. I just really love the silver hardware, all the silver hardware, the silver pocket clip, with that orange scale on the Griptilian. I just think it looks really good. I like this knife. Classic 551. It's just straight up drop point. I don't have the 557. I had a 557, not the SBK, but recently gave that one to a buddy of mine. He didn't have a knife, so he liked the Tonto. This is a Freak 560 Freak, another first production run, 204 out of 1,000. Not better than the Griptilian, but a badass knife in its own right. This is the Crooked River, another first production run, 96, under 1,000, S30V, big ass knife. And this one hit the market a lot better than I thought it would. I mean, I knew it was going to do good. I knew that people would be attracted to this knife. It's awesome. I mean, this knife is cool as shit. It's great. See that? I'm having trouble actually getting to that lock. And that's something with this knife. It's not the easiest thing to actually get to that axis lock. For me, because it's not my EDC. I imagine if you carried it every day, that would probably go away pretty quick, but I've only carried this knife a few times, and so it is a little bit harder to get to that, to actually deactivate it. There's just not enough there to hold on to, but sick ass knife. I really like the orange backspacer, orange pivot, barrel around the pivot. Looks really good. It's still doing really well. They're selling the crap out of those. This is an H&K MP5. And this is originally a mini Ruckus. They had the 610 Ruckus. I believe it was the 615, which was the mini. And then they put that in their Harley Davidson. They had the Harley Davidson Nonconformist. When they made this knife in the push-button automatic, they got rid of the push-button automatic, or they got rid of Harley Davidson, and transferred the knife design onto the H&K brand. And H&K made the MP5 here for a little while. They were discontinued, and this is not one of the knives that carried over into the Benchmade catalog. So this knife is gone. H&K MP5. This is a 665. It's on this side. There it is. Yep, 665. Ambidextrous push button. They only made this knife for 2 years. Came out 2015, discontinued 2017, beginning of 2017, end of 2016. So they actually only made this knife for 2 years. I do believe they're still making the automatic version. They had a push button automatic version where this actually actuated the blade and slung it out as an automatic. But this manual, or this assisted model here, they have actually stopped production on. I kind of called that one in my review of this knife. It's just too damn complicated. There's too much going on. It's too big. It's too just kind of crazy. I was not surprised that they decided to discontinue that knife. This is a SHOT Show knife for 2016. It's a volley, 1,000,001 volley, which is a mini barrage, just with a new blade. Mini barrage chassis, sported up a bit. New scales, new blade. The blue here is the SHOT Show edition. Normally has black scales. This blue and kind of tan, blue and gray or whatever it is SHOT Show edition. It's also an M390 opposed to the S30V, I want to say, with the original. Boost. This is a Benchmade Boost. This is new for 2017 as well, and this is number 10. 10 out of 1,000 first production run. How cool is that? And honestly, this is an improvement over the Barrage. I didn't think the Freak was an improvement over the Griptilian line, but I do think that this is an improvement over the Barrage line. Not necessarily in the blade shape. I still think that blade shape's just kind of, it's a little bit strained, but it's a sick knife. It definitely feels better in the hand than the Barrage does. It doesn't have quite as much grip per se. I mean, it does in other ways, I guess. The grip comes from other areas, so it's definitely a sick knife. I'm a big fan of that one. Little mini Griptilian. This is a 556 PNK. Mini Griptilian. I do still believe they're making the PNK, which is the pink model here. I like this one for my back pocket. This is a back pocket knife I throw in my left-hand side back pocket every once in a while. Nice little knife. I'm not the biggest fan of the mini Griptilian series. This is a 531 Pardue. See that there? 531, excellent little knife. This is my like go-to suit knife, dress knife, you know, dress down knife. Something from trying to be a little bit inconspicuous. I don't want to be carrying a really heavy knife around. It's one of these two that I go to. And honestly, it's kind of retarded, but I use this one here for matching. If I'm wearing any green, I'll take this one out opposed to the other one just so that my knife kind of matches what I'm wearing. That's really the only time that I'll carry that one there. This is the Impel. 531 Impel, little push button automatic. You see I've got the pocket clip removed here because I've been throwing this in my back pocket. I like having this in my left-hand back pocket because it's a good knife to hand to people. It's not intimidating if I don't want to pull out a larger folding knife, and it's an automatic. So if I do have, if I do need to pull it out with my left hand, if I've got something, something happening with my right hand, and I can, easily access it with my left hand, still, get the lock down and get that, get the knife open. So I like having the automatic on my left-hand side. Neat little 3150 Impel. This is the SHOT Show knife from this year, 2017. This is the 707 sequel. S30V. This is number 595 out of 1,000. Beautiful blue scales. I've never carried this one. Beautiful little knife, though. Looks like the blade is too big for the handle, doesn't it? Bone Collector. This is a Benchmade Bone Collector. It's one of their little collaborations that they did. I wanted to say this is Michael Waddell series. This is a 3-inch. They had a 4-inch model as well. D2. You can see that there. big brandy logos all over the blade. Bone collector, but it's an excellent little knife. It's like a really fat mini Griptilian. That's what it comes across to me, like a Presidio, like a really small Presidio or a really fat mini Griptilian. That's been discontinued for a while. This is an 810 Contigo. M4, CPM M4, Osborne design. Just aggressive ass knife. Aggressive, big, beefy tip, beefy, thick tip. This knife is designed to work. I don't like is how far you have to take the axis lock down to close the knife. You can see that if I just barely move this, I can actually disengage that blade. It's not the case with a lot of different axis locks. You know, a lot of axis locks, it's a variability on how far you have to pull the actual bar down to disengage the lock itself. But this one here, I mean, it disengages right there. You know, I barely have to move that lock. And this knife has a glass breaker on it. So if you want to see what could lead to that, watch my 810 Contigo or glass breaker plus, or ice breaker, glass breaker plus axis lock bad idea video. Collapse on your hand if you're using it wrong. This is an 845, what is it, Ascent. ATS 34, you can see that, USA made, old school. This is an old ass knife. I've never carried this as just a collector's piece for me. I did use it on something. I don't know what I used it for, but you can see I did cut something with it. It's probably just a cut test, honestly. Look at the brand, the logo. Changed over time. I'm not a very big fan of that knife as it stands, but I think it could be made excellent. This is the Precinct. What number is it? 320 Precincts. This is a 320 SBK. Again, first production run number 82. The only reason I got the SBK here is because it was the first production run. I had to pick that up. I've never actually carried this knife. I'm not a big enough fan of it to carry the first production run. I've got to really like the knife to actually carry it if it's a first production run. That one just doesn't quite hit high enough on the list for me. This is a 583 Barrage. Tonto Barrage. Needs to be cleaned up. I definitely like this knife. This knife slams itself open. That blade is so long and heavy. That coil spring in there just fires open, man. This thing feels like you're firing an automatic. Yeah. The boost there may have been an improvement over it, but it wasn't something that necessarily needed improvement. They did it, but it was still badass. This is a 757 Bicker. It's another one of my just knives. I love this knife. Again, discontinued. Titanium pocket clip, titanium frame lock, liner lock, excuse me. Just big, beefy Shane Siebert design. S30V. Kind of a funky Tonto drop point, clip point, blade, weird thing. Smooth as crap though, just beautiful action. I really like this knife. Discontinued in I believe this year as well. .746 Mini Onslaught. I'm almost done with the Benchmade, you guys. I promise you. Late Bob Blum design. This is the Mini Onslaught. The 740 was the full-size Onslaught. It was a big knife. That's on my list, man. If I can ever get a hold of the full-size, that's one of those that I really want. This is just a beautiful little slicey knife. And I kind of had an epiphany with this one the other day. They discontinued it this year in 2017. It's no longer in production. And I honestly think that's because they don't want to grind this blade. You can see just how narrow, how thin this, it's just a little slicey knife, right? They don't want to grind this knife out of S30V, and they're trying to step away from S30V. So I think that's probably one of the reasons that they're discontinuing this knife, is they're getting rid of a lot of their 154 line. So on the balisongs here, this is a Benchmade 32. D2, titanium G10, titanium pocket clip, spring latch, kind of a spring latch, lever spring latch. That's actually the predecessor to the Benchmade 51. It's a 51 Morpho with half Flytanium scales. If you didn't see my half Flytanium 51 video, check it out. Just an interesting little knife. So now this is the Blade HQ exclusive 1601, 51 1601. These green scales. You can get this on bladehq.com. They still have them. 63. This is the Bowie of the 6X series. The 262 is the Weehawk. The 67 is the kind of recurve Tonto. This is the Bowie. Just love that knife. It's honestly, it's probably not my favorite flipper. This 87 here is going to come into contender. It's going to be a contender as far as my favorite flipper. I don't necessarily like this knife that much. My favorite balisong is the 63, without a doubt. I don't know if this 87 comes in on my favorite balisong, or it's not my favorite balisong, but it might be my favorite flipper. I'm going to be doing a review on this one coming up. Took a little bit of getting used to, but it's a beast, right? Continue. That's it for Benchmade. It's a Microtech Tachyon 3 Stormtrooper. Stormtrooper edition of the Microtech Tachyon 3. Limited production run. You can see this is number 226. Again, this is a really sick flipping knife. The ball bearings in here aren't smooth at all. It's gritty. Well, not necessarily gritty because it moves it's very free floating, but I can feel them moving. And this is another contender for my favorite flipper. And I can't really say which is which because I can feel, this knife feels like it just has more of a spirit, like more of a soul than that 87 does, as retarded as that is. This is a Bar Ops B400. Again, sick ass blade shape. Look at that blade shape. I love that. I believe that was designed by the guys over at BRS. I'm not quite sure, but G10 steel back spacers. This one was actually given to me as a gift. I replaced the tang pins with the push pin that I had. Had some work done to it, but still sick ass knife for the money. That's it for the balisongs. Well, I just threw the 119 on the floor, so it wasn't out of the Benchmates. But here's another balisong. This is a Nathan Dewey custom Gremlin in 440C. Look what I did to the tip. Dropped it on the floor, and it bent straight over. Doesn't have a very good tape or a very good temper on it. It is running a little bit soft for that 440C as he's advertised it, but still sick ass little knife. I really like this one. And the 119 dropped on the floor. This is a 119-1. It'll come back into focus here. Another first production one run. I carried this one today, so you can see it's a little bit beat up. I was hacking some stuff with it, but sick little knife. I really like this one. They nailed it out. They knocked it out of the park with that little folder. This is what is this? Emerson CQC7 Flipper. See number 317, S35 VN. This knife, I have like a love-hate relationship with this knife. I still carry it every once in a while. It's not one of my main go-tos, but I definitely like it. This knife is a whole lot of fun to play with. The action is just excellent action, but I've got some blade play issues that I just can't fix. There's some slop in there that nothing that I could do will get it to go away. I can disengage the lock with the fat in my finger. You can see that there. It just, I've got a lot of problems with it, but at the same time, it's definitely a lot of fun to play with. I mean, it's just got a great action to it. And when it is open, and if I give it a proper grip, I keep my finger away from that liner lock, actually keep my finger away from it, it is still aggressive as hell. It'll definitely do the job. Emerson CQC7 Flipper. This is an Emerson CQC13. It's a big beefy, just sick-ass clip point blade. This is one of my favorite folders. This is in the contender for one of my favorite overall folding knives. Just excellently done. Fox 479 Karambit. N690 CO. Karambit. Fox knives. You're ever going to confuse who made this knife? And people walking around, right? You meet somebody like, oh, you got a Benchmade 940 in your pocket. They don't know what you're talking about. You know, like, oh, I don't actually know what you mean. This knife will never have that problem. If you ever walk up to somebody and be like, hey, you have a Fox Karambit in your pocket? They're going to be like, yes, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about because they've seen it so many times. People who carry that knife know the name of that knife. This is a Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight in Maximet, which is just a nuts steel to even consider carving a knife blade out of. Spyderco does some amazing things. And Maximet on a production knife that's an impressive. Same thing with this S110V, CPM S110V Maximet. I really like this knife. This is another one of those, my go-tos that I just carry all of the time. I love the action of this knife. It just feels so good. I like the purple. It's original, you know. There's not too many purple knives out there. I am a big fan of this one. They did a good job with this S110V Blurple Spyderco Manix. This is a Spyderco Kershaw. Another Karambit. Emerson wave feature. Thin little knife. This knife is just, it's only like, it's maybe 3 times thicker in the blade. A little bit more than 3 times thicker in the blade. Just a sick knife. Mean little defensive knife. For how small and compact that thing is, it is aggressive as hell. This is a paramilitary too in crew wear. Another Spyderco. Crew wear is a tool steel, non-stainless tool steel. Again, excellent choice for a knife blade, but it's kind of strange. I imagine it's probably not the easiest to get a hold of, that crew wear, and it's got some interesting properties. It's not stainless, but it's definitely a badass blade steel. You can probably see a lot of my Spydercos here are super steels. It's kind of what I look for in Spyderco is craziness, you know. And this is a Delica 4 Emerson wave with an Emerson wave. This is actually the first Spyderco I ever bought. And I bought it because of the Emerson wave. I wanted that Emerson wave. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was a Spyderco or a Delica 4. I just wanted that Emerson wave. I'm glad I got it. It's excellent. This is without a doubt, my favorite Spyderco that I own. This is a K2, Fredmere designed K2 in 10V, CPM 10V, which again is a non-stainless tool steel, 10% vanadium. It's like 9.75% vanadium. Crazy high carbide, really high in carbon as well. I want to say it's like 2.4%. Off the top of my head, don't quote me on that, but really high carbon content as well. Trying to do this behind the camera, it's messing with me. This is without a doubt my favorite Spyderco. Big, beefy. And this is a ladybug? No, this isn't. This is a dragonfly in ZDP 189. You want to know something funny about this? I had this knife for over a month. Literally over a month. I carried it 15 times at least. I've cut boxes with it. I've cut fruit with it. Not a whole lot, you know, not a whole lot of work, but a decent amount of work with this knife. And I thought it was blue the whole time. It's actually green. You can see here. I thought it was this color the whole time. I had this knife for over a month before I realized that it's that green color, which I actually just really like. That British racing green, it's great. In dark light, unless you have something to compare it to, it's kind of deceiving. This is a Protech half-breed. This is probably the best designed California legal automatic that I own that I've seen yet on the market. S35VN. This happens to have a carbon fiber inlay. Push button automatic. This is the Tantilla. Another push button automatic from Protech. This one, however, has been discontinued. Can't really get them anymore. You can find them on the secondary market every once in a while, but for the most part, production is discontinued. But it's an excellent little single action out the front California legal automatic from Protech. Protech Calmigo. And this one is an excellent little user knife, but I don't like it. It just doesn't fit my aesthetic appeal. There's something about the way that it looks that I just don't like. I like the way that it works. I like the way that it feels in hand. I actually carry this knife probably more than I carry the Half-Breed more than any of the other California legal automatics, but this one is definitely number 2 on the list. But there's still just something about it's ugly, isn't it? It's ugly, but it works great. I mean, it's an excellent knife. Don't get me wrong. I can't say too much bad about the functionality of it. It's just weird looking. Another Spyderco. This is the Urban in K390. It's another really crazy high carbide tool steel. It's another back pocket knife. That's why I've got the pocket clip removed. I like carrying this one in my back pocket. It's a great little throw, throw in your back pocket knife. If you have to hand a knife to somebody, it's a great one to hand to them. It's not intimidating at all. This is a Chris Reeves Benza 21. I just ordered a Chris Reeves in single. Well, ordered a little while ago. It's actually coming into the shop should be within the next little bit. So keep an eye out for that. Chris Reeves is the large and single. This is a Paragon Warlock from Asheville Steel. This is a Paragon Phoenix from Asheville Steel. Sick knife. These are more and more slanting towards gravity knife. Legality is more and more leaning towards gravity knife as far as sales and just overall output, but I do still believe it's considered a manual action folder as far as most distribution goes. But there may be some companies out there that are my Warlock's messing with me. Yeah, that just earned a disassembly. Oh, I've got fluorinated grease in this. That's what's going on. It was an experiment that I was running. I was curious on how it was going to run, and it actually ran fine the day that I carried it. But it looks like I'm going to have to clean that out. Now that it's been sitting here for a couple weeks since I carried it, I can feel it's gritty. See, now that I moved it around a bit, now it's working. But when it was cold, that grease in there being cold congealed it. So when I first pulled this knife out of the box right there, I had trouble opening it. Fluorinated grease is not a go in the Warlock. This is another Spyderco. This is the what is this? Endura 4. Damascus Endura 4. It's a DPS 15 VG10 Damascus. VG10 core. Titanium handle. Beautiful knife. And this is another one of just my go-to knives. I just want to carry this knife all of the time. I feel so good with this knife in my pocket. Knowing that I have a Damascus folder in my pocket, there's something so sick about having this in my pocket. Titanium Damascus in my... I just love it. There's something really cool about that. This is another H&K. This is an H&K Entourage. Tonto. It's another discontinued model. But excellent little push button automatic. If you can get a hold of one of those, they're excellent for the price. It's like $100 for a push button automatic. Excellent deal. This is a ZT0450CF S35VN. Titanium frame lock. Steel insert. Sick knife. 4.1 inch blade length. Big, beefy folder. It's not beefy at all. It's slender as shit, but it's long. Supermodel status. You guys see that? I've had a bunch of malfunctions in this video. Yup, this one's getting stripped down as well. Every time I pull this Microtech out to film a video with it, it stops working. In my Q&A video, I had a problem with this knife not deploying as well, and I had to clean it out. I carried that thing like 3 days ago. It didn't have a problem. This is another Ultratech, Microtech Ultratech Stormtrooper. Badass knife. I've never carried that one. Or this one, which is the Jedi Knight, Ultratech Jedi Knight. JK. Just kidding. Badass knife. It's the LUDT Sith Lord from Microtech. Sith Lord edition of LUDT. Push button automatic. What is this thing? 0650? Yes. 0560 ZT. This is a badass knife right here. I've never really carried it. I may wind up carrying this one around at some point if I don't just sell it off. Kershaw Blur S30V. Kershaw Blur Rescue. It's a 14C28N with a blunted tip. It's supposed to be an EMT model. Got a carbide glass breaker on the butt. Pommel in. Assisted. Speed safe assist. I got this one deactivated. This S30V here, it's deactivated. I like the Kershaw Blur with that speed assist. Works really well. It's Cold Steel Tiger Claw. Kind of an unnecessary knife. For me, anyways. Just big, burly. Cold Steel Holdout 1. Look at this thing. 6-inch AUS 8. They came out with that. It's discontinued now. Before it was discontinued, they did make it in XHP. CTS XHP. So if you can get a hold of one of those, it'd be a sick knife. That Holdout 1 there. And this is a Boker Field Marshal. Todd Begg Field Marshal. Look how fat this thing is. This knife is freaking huge. Actually, a little quick story on this one. When they first handed this to me in the store, right, I started laughing. Just, like giggling like a little boy just because it was freaking ridiculous. And the guy kind of took it from me and he's like, all right, he doesn't like that one. And he was going to put it away. And I was like, no, what are you doing? Don't put that away. I want it. I'm buying that thing.